Alright, welcome back guys. What's your first time here? I'm Vision Hero Bonner, for you guys in our video. Tammy talking about a recent article that came out from Simon Bennett where he talks about the making of Cosmic Fury along with some future plans he had for the franchise. Now, if Power Rangers don't your instant of a day, hit the subscribe button down below, hit that bell icon, there's some more Power Rangers content from me. Moving forward. Now let's begin. So, like I said, a recent article dropped where someone sat down with Simon Bennett and he talked about the making of Power Rangers Cosmic Fury. Now, I'm not going to talk about that specifically, so if you want to hear about that, I'll link the article down below so you can check it out if you're interested in it. But more importantly, I want to talk about what he said at the end of the article, because he mentioned some things that I thought were very interesting for plans he had for the future of PR. So, the main big plan he had was a plan for a 31st season, which of course we all know never came to be, but he had a few plans and ideas he would have liked to explore within Power Rangers within the 31st season if it was ever made. Now, there are three big concepts here that I want to talk about that are probably the most important things about his pitch or idea. There's a fourth, but it's not as big or as important in my opinion. But there are three. One is that he wanted to have a plus size ranger. Two, he wanted to have a ranger in a wheelchair with a disability. And three, he wanted to have a ranger be binary, and apparently he wanted it to be JJ. And the fourth, and not that I think it's as important, is that he hoped to bring back Minh and have her and JJ kind of form this new team of rangers in the 31st season. Now, this is very interesting to me because I think they had a lot of interesting concepts, and in the interview or article, whatever you want to call it, Simon Bennett said he pretty much had a Bible document about it. Like, he had, I guess, a fully fledged out story of where he wanted to take it, what he wanted to do with it, arcs, I guess, which is very interesting. So, first off, like I said, we have him wanting to have a plus size ranger. Now, I thought this was very interesting. I actually kind of like this idea. And, like, I feel like people are going to get mad, especially when I get to the third point here. But I think having a plus size ranger would have been an interesting idea, an interesting concept. We all know that from its inception, Power Rangers has always been about, diversity, letting kids see themselves in a ranger. I think having someone like that would have been a good thing for kids. Look, I'm not here going to promote that, a kid should be overweight or whatever, but there are kids who might be in that state of life or might struggle with weight loss or something like that. So I think it's important to show kids out there that, just because they're like that doesn't mean they can't be a ranger. I think that's a really cool idea and interesting concept that I would have been interested to see how they explored that with an arc. And I think that they could definitely have used it to teach some good lessons and maybe do an arc where they end up by the end of the season, having lost weight or something like that. I don't know. Something around that range. But I think that would have been a very interesting concept to explore within a Power Rangers team. It's not like everybody's perfect, which we've seen in the past. So, I think it would give them something to work with. Now, the second second point I wanted to talk about was him wanting to put a ranger in a wheelchair. And from what it sounds like in his article, like, I can't tell if it was in ranger suit or just as a civilian mode, like his wheelchair gave him like powers or something like that. I thought it'd be an interesting idea. I figured it'd be another good angle to explore. As someone who has a disability myself, I figured it'd been a good idea to show kids who have a disability that they can be rangers too. Again, going off what I said with the plus size ranger, I think this would be a great idea. The wheelchair doesn't have to be anything. It could be something different. But I think having a, ranger character who has a disability and show them, how they can use that disability as a ranger would be an interesting concept, interesting arc. They had a lot of interesting ideas going here with that. And I definitely would have been something I would have liked to see explored in the 31st season. And, it's a shame that they didn't get to go down that route, especially with these 2 points, because I think these 2 points being the plus size ranger and the ranger in a wheelchair with a disability are two concepts that should have been included in PR and or at least in some point and would have been nice to be featured now. I mean, we got our first final female Red Ranger, our main female Red Ranger. I know we have Warren and Charlie in them, but I don't really count them. But, it took us 30 years to get that. I think it would have been nice to see something where we get this, where we have a plus size ranger and a ranger with a disability. I think that would have been good. And showing kids that, like, You don't have to look a certain way. You don't have to be a certain way to be a ranger. And like I said, from its inception, PR has always been about promoting diversity, promoting, that anybody can be a ranger, and, all that stuff. Of course, nowadays you got the nut jobs and all those people who say it's too woke and whatnot, who either have not watched PR since its inception, or they have no idea what PR actually is, because pretty much PR has always been about diversity since, MMPR. So if you believe that, I don't really know where you are or what you've been looking at or anything about your history with the franchise, because you may want to kind of go back and look at some things, because PR has been diverse from the beginning, which is going to lead me into this third point, which will probably be a bit more controversial. However, I want to touch on it because Simon Bennett did talk about it in the article, and it is going to be a bit of a doozy probably, because I know some fans probably won't like it, but I think it'd be fine and be an interesting concept as well. And it is that Simon Bennett wanted to bring in a non-binary character, and he wanted to make that character JJ. Now, I've already seen it online where people were up in arms saying, but JJ can't be bi. We can't have a bi ranger. And it's just, to me, I'm like, oh, come on. It's just so ridiculous. We had Izzy and Fern. No one really got into an uproar about that. But now that it's JJ, Tommy's son, the great Tommy, we can't have him be non-binary. If this was any other ranger, I guarantee you, none of y'all who would be upset about JJ being non-binary would be upset. If they casted any other ranger outside of it being JJ, I highly doubt anybody would care. But because it's JJ, because it's the son of Tommy, everybody's up in arms about it. Honestly, I don't care. Again, we're promoting diversity. We're showing that anybody could be a ranger. The thing that has been what Power Rangers has been about since the beginning. And what? Just because he's Tommy's son doesn't mean he can't be non-binary. Honestly, I think that's a little homophobic and a little bit first off, it is way homophobic. And second off, it just feels like you don't want it done because it's the son of Tommy. Again, if it was any other ranger, if it was any other character, no, I highly doubt anybody would have a problem with it. But because it's the great legendary Tommy and his son to be a non-binary ranger, it's an issue, which I get sick and tired of this. Just because you had this big name in the franchise, whether it be a character or actor or whatever it is, you can't do something that, might promote diversity into this franchise. It really ticks me off, and it really annoys me even more when it's something like this. Again, it's a kid's show that promotes that's promoting diversity. Having a non-binary character in it, is a good idea. Again, no one really cared when we had Izzy and Fern. At least that I know. I never saw anybody complaining about Izzy or Fern. So maybe there are people out there who did get mad about that. I'm sure there are. Maybe it just wasn't in the area where I look and, are connected to people and within the fan base. But I never saw anybody get were upset or mad about Fern and Izzy. So, I think this day and age, especially if you're Power Rangers fans, I think you have to be a little bit more open-minded about the whole idea of diversity, since it's pretty much been a part of PR's brand since the beginning. So, unless you're a new fan and don't know next to anything about PR, you might not understand it. But for those of us who have been with the franchise for years or from the beginning, we've known that PR has been about promoting diversity from the beginning. And, I think it's what Simon Bennett had planned out. I think would have been an interesting idea, especially to take it into its 31st season, into this new era. So I would have liked that. Now, the fourth part was Minh and JJ would apparently bring forth this new team of Rangers. Now, I like this. It kind of reminds me of kind of like a Young Avengers kind of thing, where these two characters who are the kids of the OG characters, form their own Ranger team. I think that'd be very interesting. Maybe the rest of the team are kids of old Rangers or something like that. Maybe you could bring back an old Ranger to be the mentor. I think there would have been a lot of interesting aspects. Maybe they could have actually brought Billy full-time in to be the mentor. I don't know. This is just all speculation on what I would have thought would be interesting. But, they could have brought in past Rangers to be the mentor. They could have brought back a lot of different concepts. This would be I know Cosmic Fury is the anniversary season, but this would also be a good kind of, you know, soft reboot in a sense. I know every season of PR is pretty much a soft reboot, but this could be another kind of soft reboot to the soft reboot in a way, if you kind of get what I'm saying. This would be kicking off a new era of PR. So I think that'd been an interesting concept there. I definitely would have liked to seen a Ranger team formed by past Rangers or kids of Rangers. That's actually something I talked about on this page before. I would have loved to seen at some point, either a veteran Ranger or kids of of past Rangers form a modern day team. Look, I know you could say that Tommy did it with Dino Thunder. Yes, that's true, but I would have rather have seen him someone bring them together. The Dino Thunder cast kind of just ended up being Rangers because they were all at the same place at the same time. I would have rather had it been them being recruited instead, in my idea of a new age of Power Rangers, something like that. And I figured it'd be an interesting concept. You could even have it Power Rangers The Next Generation or something like that. It would have been a cool idea, cool concept. And it would have been something interesting to see because you already had Minh established in, Once and Always. You could build off there. She learned a lot of stuff. She could be a good leader. I know she'd probably be the Yellow Ranger. I mean, yes, they could make her the Red Ranger. But, she'd be a good kind of leader or co-leader. I wouldn't want JJ to be the Green or Red Ranger just because he's Tommy's son. That always ticks me off when they do the whole nepotism thing. That always ticks me off no matter what kind of franchise it is. Which I know people might argue would be nepotism for, the daughter Trini. But I feel like that's a little bit less due to the fact that Trini unfortunately wasn't as big of a character as Tommy. Yes, she's part of the OG cast. The OG cast are big names, but she's not on Tommy level, unfortunately. And this is not to speak ill of the actress. This is just kind of where you can kind of look at it from where the fans are and where the show stance kind of takes. But I'm gonna move on to that because I fucking gonna go into and annoy people. I don't want to kind of open up that bag of worms. But that would have been an interesting concept. A fifth concept that I didn't really talk about, that I wasn't really going to talk about, but I figured I might want to talk about it here, was that Simon Bennett also kind of wanted to do what they did with Dino Fury and, the old days of MMPR. He wanted to kind of have overarching seasons with this new cast, which, again, I would have loved. The one thing that kind of sucked with, the one season of Rangers, look, I think they did a good job of everything after, from Lost Galaxy to Beast Morphers to wherever you want to go with it. They did a good job. But definitely, you kind of lack a lot of character development there. Yes, you do get good character development. But, it takes a while to kind of... You don't have enough time to fully fledge out characters. Where when you give them 2, maybe 3 seasons like MMPR did and Dino / Cosmic Fury did, you're able to flesh out these characters more, better get to know them. I mean, not to say that the characters of, say, Time Force, RPM, Lightspeed Rescue aren't well-developed characters. They really well are developed. They are great characters. But they definitely, you know what I'm saying. You could have more potential when you have more than just one season of 40 episodes to develop a character. If you get what I mean. Especially with Power Rangers where you have 5 main leads. So, there's a lot to cover there within just 40 episodes. But I'm going to move on to that and say, I would have been interesting to see how they could have adapted or evolved or developed these characters further into just a 2nd, 3rd, maybe 4th season. I think that would have been an interesting concept with what Simon Bennett had planned. Again, like he said, he pretty much had a Bible document. He kind of knew where he wanted to take it, where he wanted to take the franchise. And in a way, no one can be like him. But I feel like he could have been a PR, lower level Kevin Feige if they had given him the space and ability to do what he had planned. Because like I said, he had a Bible version. He pretty much knew where he wanted to take things. That's a sign of a good head. And I think Hasbro were idiots to get rid of him, especially now that we know they pretty much don't care about the franchise and everything. That really annoys me. Wherever Simon Bennett ends up and if he goes along with another franchise, I would definitely want to keep an eye on that because I think he is one of the like a person who could be a visionary and could come up with some good ideas, good stories. He did a good job with Dino and Cosmic Fury, so I'd be very interested to see where it could take more PR and where it could take other projects that he might work with in the future. So, it's very disappointing that they got rid of him, and it's even more frustrating now that they don't even have any plans for PR in the future. Very annoying, very frustrating. I mean, I would have loved to see what Simon Bennett could have done this year with this kind of season of PR. Definitely would have been interesting, especially off of Netflix. Netflix, you have a lot more freedom than where you did on Nickelodeon. So, again, I would have loved to see Simon Bennett's plans with an overarching series of all these ideas come together. However, at the end, Simon Bennett did talk about kind of why these things never came to pass, and it does go back to Hasbro, because he did mention how people are a little shy about change, and they're worried about changing the status quo, which kind of sounds to me like I said, Hasbro was a little bit too scared to go down this lane of ideas, which is kind of sad because like I said, PR has been about diversity, and I think if you're gonna own PR, you gotta welcome this idea of diversity with open arms. You can't just not be totally into it. You kind of have to go into it and just jump right into the deep end, in my opinion. You can't, especially this day and age, you can't just tippy-toe around things. If you want to be a franchise like PR that promotes diversity and inclusion, you can't tippy-toe around things. You got to kind of jump right into the deep end or close to the deep end. So, from what it sounds like, he wanted to implement these ideas, but Hasbro was a little gun-shy. It wasn't really, interested or wanted to take these routes, because from what he says in his article, or what it sounds like he's saying, is they wanted to kind of stick with what Power Rangers was, this the same formula. But whenever you have a franchise, you can't stick with the same formula. Eventually things are going to kind of start to get bored, tired out. You can't just keep going on the same, speed and everything else you've been doing. You got to develop, you got to morph, you got to change, in kind of Power Rangers words. You can't just stay the same course. You got to start taking more risks. You got to start doing more things. And doing these big risks and doing things like this, which, Simon Bennett had in mind, are ways you can bring in more different fans, bring in new fans, bring in people who might have, not have been interested. Yes, you might lose fans. Anytime you take risks like this, you risk actually losing fans. But at the same time, it gives you the opportunity to introduce new fans to the franchise, bring back old fans. Just because you lose fans doesn't mean oh my God, your franchise is plummeting. You still have the opportunity to bring in new fans, old fans. Having an open mind and taking things into a different route is always something a franchise, especially one like PR, should do. PR has always been looked at as a kid's show. And you need to take these kinds of risks if you don't want to be looked at as a kid's show. Especially if you're trying to make a franchise out of it, which Hasbro seemed to want to do. They wanted to do this big movie thing. You gotta take it away from being seen as a kid's show. You gotta take it into the deep end. You can't just, go stay the course and do the same old things. So I think, in a way, Hasbro not really caring about it, kind of, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens in the coming years, because right now it doesn't seem like Hasbro has much plans. It seems like they're shelving it for right now. I wish they could bring back Simon Bennett, just, hand him the keys and say, do what you want with it. Because I think it would put the franchise in a good space. I know people will talk about how Disney never cared about the franchise, but Disney as much as you want to say Disney didn't care about the franchise, not caring about the franchise is honestly the best thing you could possibly have going for your franchise, because it means that you have more creative freedom. You don't have all these cooks in the kitchen and management heads trying to dictate what you're doing. If they don't care, you have more freedom. You can do more of what you want to do and not more of what they want you to do. So, and that opens up many doors for new ideas and new, stories that can be told. So, as much as we want to argue that Disney didn't care about the franchise, we got some of the best seasons of PR from the Disney era. So, in a way, them not caring brought us some great seasons. Hasbro not caring could have brought us even more great seasons if they gave Simon Bennett the reins and a opportunity to give him, you know, time to develop these ideas and visions he had. I would have loved to seen Simon Bennett take over the reins as the new head of PR, especially with the TV universe. Yeah, Jonathan Entwistle controlling the movie universe. I don't know what the hell happened to him. I haven't heard any news regarding him in I don't know how long. Again, we know, Hasbro pretty much doesn't care about the franchise, so I don't know. That might be closed indefinitely and was never fully announced and just was swept under the rug behind closed doors. I don't know. But this would have been an interesting concept to be done, and I wish Simon Bennett would have had time and the ability to, create this kind of story. But those are just my thoughts and opinions regarding this new article. Let me know all your thoughts and opinions about what Simon Bennett's ideas were. Do you like them? Do you hate them? Are you in between? Do you wish they would have come to pass, or are you glad that they were just kind of shelved and didn't happen? Let me know all that good stuff in the comment section down below. Yeah, guys, those are my thoughts, pins regarding Simon Bennett's recent news regarding where he wanted to take Power Rangers after Cosmic Fury. As always, if you guys don't get a big thumbs up and share, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below, hit that bell icon, this more Power Rangers content from me moving forward, and go for me on Instagram, Twitter, which are linked in the back section on my YouTube channel. As always, I'm Vision Hero Entertainment, and I'll see you next time.